Welcome everybody to the CSCA Montreal chapter. Today's talk or today's film and Q&A session will be on Virginia's Calling, which is a climate testimony and film. Barry Lyons is our guest speaker, and also Virginia Wasserberg is the primary character of this film. So Barry Lyons is a cultural anthropologist at Wayne State University in Detroit. He views cultural anthropology as a way to understand how people in different conditions experience their lives and interpret the world. And he tries to use that understanding to broaden perspectives and build bridges. He has worked for many years with peasant farmers in the Ecuadorian Andes, where he has seen how increasingly unpredictable and extreme weather has made it hard for farmers to make a living. Recently, Barry has turned to filmmaking with evangelical Christians both in Ecuador and the United States. The short film that we will see tonight, Virginia's Calling, presents the story of a conservative Christian woman's journey of faith as she struggles to understand and respond to climate change. Now, Virginia was supposed to be with us as well, but she wasn't able to attend. So I'm going to pass this over to Barry, and then we will watch the film.
Okay. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you for this invitation to join you, and thank you all for being here. I want to start by apologizing again. Virginia wanted to be here. She's not able to for health reasons. She would appreciate your prayers. I would appreciate your prayers for her good health. So a few words about the film before we start. The film is not focused on the science of climate change. It's Virginia's faith journey. It's her testimony. It's about a way that Christians can approach the issue of climate change from a biblical perspective. I made it because, especially in my country, in the United States, climate change as an issue is all too often entangled with partisan politics in ways that are just not productive at all. My filmmaker partner and I think that if Christians can reframe climate change in biblical terms, if they can think about it as an issue of our relationship with God and with God's creation, Christians can make important contributions to discussions of the issue and to addressing climate change. So as you watch, I hope that you find the film engaging. I hope that you find it to be something that sparks reflection. If so, I hope that you also begin thinking about who else might benefit from this kind of reframing, who else in your personal circles, your networks, your groups that you belong to, or your professional life might benefit from this. So with that, thanks again, and I'll let Joseph or I guess Mark start the film.
Well, wow. So that was really nice. We now sort of move into this period that we can sort of ask questions, and I have a few questions that I could start off with, but is there anybody here who actually wants to start off the question period with the question? Abigail says, how did the project come about? How did it start?
Yeah, let me first apologize for the lagging. I should have made a lower resolution version available. I don't know how disruptive it was. I hope it wasn't too distracting. So how did the project come about? It grows out of my, first of all, out of my passion as an anthropologist for what Joseph alluded to earlier, my sense that anthropology's role is to understand how people see the world and to use that understanding to build bridges and to broaden perspectives. So I have actually, I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Highland, Ecuador before I became an anthropologist. Sometime after that, married a woman from the village where I was a Peace Corps volunteer. And I think Joseph mentioned this in the introduction too. So my parents-in-law over the years, since at least I think the 1990s, have been saying to us, we planted the corn, but then it stopped raining and we had to replant. Or we harvested the corn and we set it out to finish drying. They harvest corn in the dry stage sometimes. We set it out to finish drying and it just wouldn't stop raining, so it got moldy. So I've been aware of climate change. I didn't do much or anything about it for a long time, but a few years ago, the idea came to me that evangelical Christians, if they could kind of hear the news from other evangelical Christians, American evangelicals, who could hear the news from their brothers and sisters in Christ in Ecuador, that might move them to engage in a more fruitful way with this issue. That project of I did some filming in Ecuador, but that film has been kind of on the back burner. I found Virginia and met her and was taken with her story, and just felt that this could be a story that could open up hearts and minds to thinking about the issue in terms of faith, in terms of our relationship with God and with God's creation, as I said earlier. So that's the origin of this project. Yeah, thank you for the question.
There's a question from Dana. Have communities of faith stepped in to assist with local projects in activism on climate change? Has it increased lately?
I think it is slowly increasing. I have been an active participant in the Evangelical Environmental Network book clubs. So I've met a number of people in the book club who are are becoming active in their local communities. I'm sure you're all aware the ways faith and politics intersect in the United States is, I think, different than in Canada, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge for a lot of Christians to even start the conversation about climate change with their family members, especially with the older generation or within their churches, because people are afraid of controversy, afraid of division. So that's one reason for this film. We hope that it's a way to move into those conversations and to lift them out of that kind of partisan framing into a framing of, this is an issue of how do we think about this as people of faith.
I have maybe a slightly scientific question, like from an anthropologist point of view. I find it, maybe you can comment from that point of view. I found it striking how Virginia had this life crisis. I don't know if you could comment.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, a crisis. Yeah, I mean, I think it was a challenge for her to rethink her sense of God's role in her life. I mean, on a theological level, what happens when I pray for something to happen, for God to do something, and God has other plans? How do I understand that? So I think she grew in her faith and grew in her theology. Absolutely, it was a crisis on every level. You asked me to comment as an anthropologist. I guess just on a general level, I think that we're all subject to crises of all sorts when things don't go as we expect. We all bring our own faith, our own sense of what gives the world meaning for us, to our understanding of what's happening around us. And I think some of the deepest thinkers about society and culture say that a central role of culture, whatever our beliefs, but a central role of culture is to give us a sense of meaning in our lives. And so when we go through a crisis, whether it's a climate disaster or any other kind of crisis, that can be challenged, and we have to reconstruct our sense of what the world is all about.
So do you think that Virginia's story is actually like what many churches would have to go through? I don't mean that they have to go through something terrible as she went through, but have to have some kind of big change in thinking or in theology, or to sort of bridge that, to sort of make that step that she did.
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the first things that Virginia said to me when I first met her was, I had to go. I'm sorry. I just saw a message in the chat from Mark. So I didn't know how public Virginia was about her current health. So I don't know if you all saw that, but yeah, Virginia is being public about her health condition. She's been struggling with a health issue for 2 or 3 weeks. It was kind of up and down. She got 2 negative PCR tests, but as Mark tells me, she's been public about the fact that now she's actually in the hospital with COVID pneumonia. She was diagnosed with COVID, so it's a serious situation. And again, she would appreciate your prayers. I would ask you to include her in your prayers. So where was I? Let's see. So one of the first things that she said to me when I met her was that she had to go through this climate disaster, her house flooding, as a kind of wake-up call for her to pay attention to climate change and to begin thinking about it in a different way. But she hopes that that's not the case for everybody. She hopes that other people can start taking it seriously and reconsider it without having to go through a disaster. I don't know, what it will take. My sense is that there are, even in a lot of conservative evangelical Christian churches in the U.S., there are a lot of closeted, what people in the Yale Climate Communication Center would call closeted climate cautious people, at least people who are wondering, maybe something is going on. Maybe there is something here that we need to pay attention to. But the social pressures in their churches are so strong that it's hard to come out of the closet with that. I think the fact that we see communities in the Gulf Coast flooding, major cities flooding over and over again, the West Coast of the U.S. Burning up, all these climate disasters, I think, is getting people to pay attention a little bit more. But I think it still takes this kind of reframing. You asked about, change in theology. I'm not sure exactly. I can't prescribe what it will take for different groups of people. But I think, the good thing is that there are ways to approach this issue without scrapping your Christian faith, right? I mean, there are rich resources in Christianity and in the Bible for thinking about what happens when people mess up. Right? There are consequences, as Virginia said. So it may be just that people have to, I keep using the word reframe. I think that's really what it's about. Stop thinking about it as a partisan issue. I don't even want to say those words, because the instant you say the word partisan, that frame gets activated. But, think about it instead. Think about it as, what is God calling us to do? What does the Bible say about our obligations, all the way back in Genesis, as Virginia cited the passage? So maybe it's not so hard as, rethinking your whole view of the world, but just returning to something that you already believe.
Anybody else with questions? So Barry, have you had, tell me about the successes and challenges you've had with, giving this film out.
Yeah, thank you for that question. The film has done well at some Christian film festivals. We've won some awards. We've been selected for screenings at some Christian film festivals. Some American evangelical leaders have received it enthusiastically. I've built connections with several organizations and leaders, but it's been a challenge. The pandemic really threw a wrench into our distribution plans. We had planned to premiere the film at large screening events, campus-wide screening events at Christian colleges and universities. We had some university administrators who were enthusiastic about the idea of showing it at some campus-wide events, maybe with speakers, with discussions. And why not? It's a kind of low or no cost program that would be easy to organize. Our idea was that students would then bring word of the film back to their home churches, recommend it to be shown, and share it on their social media. The biggest challenge for us has been that we can't do that. We can't get it to audiences in that sort of in-person event.
So any new strategies? Any ways that our organization can help?
Well, we're hoping that even small scale Zoom screenings can spark some ideas and can inspire people to want to arrange screenings and discussions in your schools, in your churches, in your personal circles, maybe Bible study groups. And that can be done in a 30-minute showing, as we did tonight. The film can also be broken up into 2 15-minute segments. 15 minutes brings you, I think, right up to about the point of the crisis, of Virginia's crisis. We have a discussion guide on our website. And so we're hoping that people can organize screening events and follow them with discussions that would be guided by someone sensitive to the range of opinions in your group, and also help spread the word in your networks. Recommend it to other people who you think might be interested. I should say again, I apologize for the lagging. I can make a lower resolution available if I didn't already. I'm not sure if I already said this. I can make a lower resolution available to you for your use in Zoom meetings. Please contact me if you'd like to do that, or post your email in the chat if you'd like me to be in touch with you. If you'd like to consider arranging a screening, we can. We can talk about that, how that might work. I'd be happy to participate. And I guess I should post my email in the chat if you want to get in touch with me. There is a contact form on the website, but unfortunately, I also get a lot of spam from the website. So if you want to contact me, it's better to use this email. There we go. But I'm also happy to take your email addresses if you'd like to follow up with me, and I could be in touch with you.
All right. Anybody else with questions?
Abigail has a question.
Do you have a question, Abigail?
Sorry, I was figuring out how to unmute myself. Did you learn anything new while doing this film?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, maybe this is a point where I should mention that I'm actually not Christian myself. I'm Jewish. It's been a real pleasure and a real deeply meaningful experience for me to get to know a lot of folks and become really close friends with a number of evangelical Christians. And I guess one of the things that I've learned that's kind of impressed me the most about that is the sense of hope that Christians bring to really challenging issues like climate change. I think that's one thing that Christians can contribute to general public discussions of this. I've just also been, I don't know, on a personal level, deeply moved by I've come to appreciate a lot more deeply the beauty of the Christian tradition and of Christian ritual, Christian services. I'm active in my Jewish congregation, but that doesn't stop me from appreciating other traditions.
Roy, you have your hand up?
Yes. Yeah, it's not actually a question, but you mentioned about hope. And I just have to put in a plug for Catherine Hayhoe, evangelical Christian. She just published a book about saving us, and it's something about having hope. And but Catherine Hayhoe is an excellent communicator. And I would encourage people, if you can spare an hour, to listen to the latest BioLogos podcast by Catherine Hayhoe. She's very good.
She does wonderful work. Yeah, one of my heroes.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
This has been a very good video to watch, well put together, and I definitely would like to see some screenings happen. Joe, I know your church is part of the West Island Network.
Yep.
And there are a few scientists that are within these different churches. Actually, one of the Catholic churches, a priest who is actually also Jewish, that seems to be a bit of an irony, but he is very much in concern for some of the climate change issues as well. So I'm thinking perhaps, you would know how to, I know some of the people connected with the West Island Network, and that would be a great way for us to disseminate some of this information and this screening that will, I think, encourage people to think outside the box of their particular conservative tradition, perhaps, that says, no, it's all a political conspiracy, climate change, there's no such thing. But, it's just so obvious once you begin to remove the blindfolds and see that this is going on, and we are meant to be stewards of this planet and to encourage others. So I'm so thankful, Barry, that you've come on here and shared this. There are some good people. I think Francis Collins from Biologos is another one that, as a scientist, coming from a bit of a conservative tradition, I know what it's like to just think in those terms of us and them, and that any views that and I come from a scientific background and went through it because in university, the conservative tradition just questioned, and science seemed to be anti-God. You could not be a scientist and have a faith tradition, which I had to learn that is not true. They're not opposed to each other. So I thank you for your sharing this screening, and look forward to seeing it shared more with others, Barry.
Thank you so much, Wendell. I really appreciate that. Yeah, there were a lot of times when I was interviewing Virginia and filming with her, that things that she said would bring tears to my eyes. And one of those times was when she started talking about how God, she was imagining a scene. I don't remember if that, I don't think the full scene got into the film, but she was imagining a scene of God walking with Adam in the shade of the evening, I think is the passage, in the garden. And she asks, so what were they doing? What were they talking about? Well, God was probably teaching Adam how to take care of the garden. So, this idea of faith and science being in conflict, as you said, Wendell, so well, we don't have to think of it that way.
Yes.
All right, great. So I think that's it. We'll close the Q&A part, and we will do like a casual social. So if you guys want to stay and sort of just talk, we can. But you can feel free to just drop off. You don't have to, make any scene about that. You can just like log off, and that is totally okay. I want to thank Barry for coming here. We were really excited when we saw his presentation for the first time, and we really thought that it would be really good for Montreal to hear it. And Wendell, you mentioned the West Island Network, and so I think maybe I'll try to talk to them as well and see if they would be interested in sort of showing that to all of their churches. I think that was a great idea.
Please let me know. The film is freely available on the website, but we would really like to know if you organize a screening event and if we can do anything to help as well. But even if you just want to show the film and not have us involved at all, which is perfectly fine. We would really like to know. So please do be in touch with us, with me.
Okay, I'll make sure. All right, so thank you, Barry. So this is a clap from all of us thank you for coming.
Thank you all. It's been good to be with you. And I'll hang around to chat.